with his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning. It's time for Johnnie Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnnie Walker Dread Show.
Instead of asking one witness 5 questions, I'm going to ask all 5 witnesses the same question. But before I do that, I'd like to introduce into the record 2 articles, and this will give you an idea of the question I'm going to be asking you all. The first article appeared in The Atlantic, and it's by Elder G. Yusuf Qualls, retired pastor and criminal justice advocate. The article is titled, "Kyle Rittenhouse Deserves the Kind of Mercy My Son Did Not Receive."
Okay, so his son was the one that was involved in killing that one couple. If you may recall, the woman was locked in the trunk of the car, and he set fire to the car, killing her. At least that's what he was convicted of. There are now people who are claiming that she was already dead, but that's neither here nor there at this point. But that's who this person is. So at least that's the father.
The second article is by Massie Mistrit. She's the CEO of the national advocacy organization called the Campaign for Youth Justice. This appeared in LA Progressive, and the title of this article is "Not Even Kyle Rittenhouse Should Be Tried as an Adult."
You get the idea by the title that she's not particularly fond of Kyle Rittenhouse, but I don't think that really she knows too much about what took place there. Let's go ahead and take a look at that article because it's rather interesting. You can see this sort of slant, and you can also tell what kind of drives her. Not even Kyle Rittenhouse should be tried as an adult. All right. Okay, so it begins. Kenosha, Wisconsin dominated headline news in late August, due in part to the actions of 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse of Illinois, who was arrested for allegedly killing 2 protesters and injuring a third. To some observers, he acted in self-defense, the people who actually know what actually happened that night. And to others who don't, he acted in the name of white supremacy. I'm going to go ahead and skip on down here. As the CEO of a national advocacy organization, the Campaign for Youth Justice, I have spent the past 7 years advocating for states to change their laws and practices toward the treatment of children who are charged, sentenced, and incarcerated as if they were adults. Much of my ire has been directed to Wisconsin, one of only 3 states that still considers every 17-year-old as an adult in the eyes of the law, regardless of their crimes. Georgia and Texas are the others. Well, that's kind of odd. I would have thought Oklahoma would be up there. We're about as tough on crime as you're going to find in this country, but no, we escaped her ire. The state has charged and sentenced 3 children younger than 12 as adults in the past 6 years. Whoa. That's, in my opinion, insane. Unequivocally, I stand against these practices as brutal human rights violations that undermine public safety and our nation's century-long belief in the ability of children to be rehabilitated. So in the case of this 17-year-old child, I stand my ground. Kyle Rittenhouse is still a child who has been alleged to commit senseless and avoidable pain and death, but a child nonetheless. He is also a child who, by some news accounts, has received the benefit of this doubt. Oh, good grief. So she's speaking out in favor of Kyle, but she just has to dig into him here. Okay. That he acted in self-defense, that the police provided him with water and gratitude earlier that night. What difference does it make? It's not relevant to him being tried as an adult. That he was allowed to leave the state and turn himself in later. Well, that's kind of misleading. That he is currently being housed in an age-appropriate youth detention facility in Illinois. Right, because his charges are in Wisconsin. Illinois was only holding him for extradition. Why would they put him in an adult center? And she says, a benefit that won't be extended once he arrives in Wisconsin, of course, where he will be placed in an adult jail. Treatment that many say, and to which I agree, would likely not be extended if he were black or brown. Oh, come on. I've had enough of this crap. This case cuts to the soul of the conflict in our country. It is why we are having these protests to begin with. They test our moral compass and the type of future we are building for our children. There are many values that are challenged. Our sanctity of childhood and the belief that every person is more than the worst thing they have ever done are called in the structural racism that, had Kyle been black, oh here we go, would have led law enforcement to presume his carrying of a weapon was an act of aggression and not self-defense. He's being tried for murder. They didn't presume anything. Where has law enforcement presumed that he was acting in self-defense? And that easily could have led to his injury or death. Oh, in other words, here we go again with the, if he had been black, they would have shot him dead. Give me a break, lady. He was holding his hands up, walking slowly to the police. He was obeying commands. If you do that, you don't get shot. Our desire to live out the practice of restorative justice and healing even in the face of unspeakable loss and tragedy to seek peace and not just punishment. Now, there's something wrong with that sentence. That first clause is not an independent clause. So why is she using a semicolon? Oh, who cares? I believe we can rise to this challenge. Wisconsin legislators can use this tragedy as a point of self-reflection to examine the way it treats its children. Law enforcement can examine their behavior in response to a white-armed child versus a black one. Here we go again. I mean, she is fixated on this. Absolutely fixated on it. Okay, let's get back to the video.
So that should give you an idea what my question is going to be. No surprises or gotchas here. I know you're not going to be jurists and you won't be judges, and you can't possibly know all of the circumstances of this situation. But what we do know is Kyle Rittenhouse was 17, and he's been accused of felonies, and he's being tried as an adult in Wisconsin. I'll start with you, Mr. Peterson. Please be brief. I want to give everybody a chance to answer the question. Should Kyle Rittenhouse be tried as an adult?
The person you're going to hear from is named Brett Peterson. He's the director of the Utah Division of Juvenile Justice Services.
No, I don't believe so.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Levick.
I support that. I think that the science has taught us what we need to know about children. Kids are different, and we should treat them differently.
This is Marcia Levick, and she's the Chief Legal Officer for the Juvenile Law Center. And I will post the URL for her background in case you're interested in the description below.
Thank you, Mrs. Levick. Let's see, Mr. Peterson. Stevenson, sorry.
No, I agree with the panelists, but I will note that there's a 14-year-old named Omar Ninham in Wisconsin who has been tried as an adult and sentenced to life without parole. And what I want to do for Kyle Rittenhouse, I want to do for the hundreds of other children in Wisconsin.
Well, I'd like to see if he could join on Kyle Rittenhouse's legal team. That would really help. Who is this, by the way? This is Brian Stevenson. He's a lawyer out of Alabama. He works for the Equal Justice Initiative. And the person he was talking about is this dude, Omar Ninham. At first I thought he had misspoke, but no, his first name is Omer. About the first time I think I've ever seen anybody named that. Now 32 years old, is the only Wisconsin inmate the ruling could affect. Okay, so what is this referring to? Wisconsin man convicted of murder could be eligible for parole after U.S. Supreme Court ruling. High Court rules juveniles convicted of murder have a right to petition for parole. A U.S. Supreme Court ruling on Monday could mean a chance at freedom for Wisconsin man serving life without parole for a killing that he committed when he was 14 years old. This is insane. The 6-3 court decision in Louisiana grants juveniles sentenced to life without parole for murder committed when they were under 18 the chance to petition for a reduced sentence. Omar Ninham, now 32 years old, is the only Wisconsin inmate the ruling could affect. He was sentenced for throwing 13-year-old Zong Vang off the top of a Green Bay parking ramp to his death in 1998. Now keep in mind, throwing a kid off a ramp to his death, pretty grisly, pretty horrific, certainly not worthy of any sympathy. But he was only 14 years old when he did this. I absolutely do not believe that anybody should be serving a life sentence for crimes they committed that young. And yes, you might be thinking, oh, what about the Uber Eats killers? I said it. I have a video on it. I said that a life sentence was ridiculous. They got less than I was recommending, but I certainly did not recommend a severely harsh sentence for those two. And by the way, Stevenson here was on his legal team. So that's why he is bringing this thing up to the attention of the subcommittee.
And then finally, I want to ask Aaron to leave what your opinion is, Aaron.
No, I don't think he should be tried as an adult.
And then
Nice looking young man there in a nice dress shirt and tie. Who is he? Well, he's a teenager sentenced for shooting a man during a Tacoma carjacking. A teenager who pleaded guilty to shooting a man he was trying to carjack was sentenced Friday to 21 years in prison. Aaron Toliafoa, 17, was charged as an adult and pleaded guilty in March to charges of second-degree attempted murder, first-degree robbery, first-degree burglary, vehicle theft, and taking a vehicle without permission. He stole multiple cars at gunpoint in October 2014 when he was 15, and when one of the victims tried to reach for his own gun, Toliafoa shot him in the chest. He didn't die, so he didn't go up for murder. He recognized his actions were reckless, he said, and that he put the man's life in jeopardy. I did not know what else to do but shoot, he said. How about not carjacking? That'd be the thing I would do.
Ms. Vaughn, should Kyle Rittenhouse be tried as an adult?
I don't know. I don't have an opinion on that. I do know that the border crisis and other problems with our immigration system are making it much more difficult to resolve this pipeline problem into the juvenile justice system. And I think that is an appropriate thing for Congress to be focusing on.
Wow, okay, let's just ignore the topic at hand completely and get off on a tangent about immigration. Who is this? Jessica Vaughn. Well, she is the Director of Policy Studies for the Center for Immigration Studies, so she's really into immigration and she's not into Kyle Rittenhouse.
On right now during this crisis.
Well, I thank you all for answering the question to the best of your ability, and I'll give you my opinion. I think it, but let me condition it. You all were nice enough to give a short answer, and I'll give the longer answer myself. I think it should be left up to the states. In Wisconsin, fortunately, Mr. Tiffany isn't here, and I'm talking about Wisconsin, but in Wisconsin, 17-year-olds are regularly tried as adults, but I do believe it should be left up to the states. I believe he acted in self-defense. That's just an opinion. I'm not a jurist or a judge.
Good for him.
But if he's going to be tried, I think he should be tried as a juvenile. He was 17. He should not be tried as an adult. I agree with the 4 witnesses here who gave me a straight answer. I thank you for doing that. He shouldn't be tried as an adult. And adding to the absurdity of this case, he's also being tried for a misdemeanor crime of being a minor in possession of a firearm. So he's being tried for a crime that only applies to minors while simultaneously being tried as an adult. The only thing that would be more ridiculous if they tried him for the crime of being a minor in possession of a firearm as an adult.
I think they are. Is that not the case? Or have I missed something? But my understanding of it is that Kyle is being tried for minor possession as an adult, in which case this guy doesn't even know that. If that is correct, I think somebody needs to contact Mr. Massie by emailing him or writing him and letting him know that the absurdity that he is talking about is reality. Now, keep in mind, this is U.S. Congress. They have no jurisdiction in Wisconsin. But I still think it would be a really good thing to do is to straighten him out and a subcommittee on this. By the way, so who is Mr. Massie? Well, he is a U.S. representative. Entered Congress in November 2012. He's from Kentucky. He attended MIT, where he earned a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and a master's degree in mechanical engineering. Wow, so his background is very similar to mine, except I didn't get into a prestigious university like MIT, but still. During school, he invented a technology that enabled people to interact with computers using their sense of touch and leveraged that technology to found Sensible Technologies Incorporated, which raised over $32 million in venture capital. Why can't this guy run for president? Why do we always get people with real sordid backgrounds? I'll just go ahead and skip the committee stuff. Thomas lives on a cattle farm in Kentucky with his wife and high school sweetheart Rhonda, and they have 4 children. Why can't this guy run for president? Why can't we have presidents who have good, solid backgrounds and are not a bunch of crooks or idiots?